sitting down with Will Moorhouse. I'm really excited for today. I think we've been on a bit of a journey now. I'd have to actually look at when that journey started, but just wanted to bring you in because we really value the partnership with yourself and the Prosper X, or now Prosper team.
Yeah,
got to get that right. There's been an evolution there. We've just really valued working with you guys, not only what it's done for our organization, but at each level of staff, from everyone that's on the ground doing all the hard work through to different levels of management and giving them tools to be able to do their job more effectively. But I thought we'd just start, Will, by, just getting to know you a bit better. So talk to us about who Will is, a bit of family, a bit of background.
Well, look, first of all, thank you for having me. It's been a great partnership I think it's been nearly 2 years, or at least a year and a half since we started working together.
Time flies.
Which has been fantastic. So a bit about myself. My name's Will. I'm the founder of Prosper. Used to be Prosper X. The X in Prosper X stood for employee experience, which is ultimately what we are as a platform. We help businesses build great employee experiences for their employees and teams.
So cool.
I started the business 2.5 years ago. Originally I'm from the UK, Manchester, England. So moved over here 8 years ago, working for Expedia, the global travel technology company.
Yes. Yep.
And what we saw was they were investing so much money into their people. Employee engagement and performance and retention was so important for them. And when we moved up, me and my family, my wife Renee and my daughter Holly, we relocated to the Gold Coast probably 5 years ago now, 6 years. And through a job change where we moved away from these big global organizations, started working for smaller or medium-sized businesses, we saw an opportunity that we could really build something to help those types of organizations,
cool.
who suffer from the same challenges that the big organizations do.
Yep. So inspired by what the big businesses were doing, but seeing there was a real gap there.
There's a real gap in the market, right? Yep. Because these smaller to medium-sized businesses, when I say that size, I'm talking up to 1,000 employees.
Yes, yep.
There just wasn't any, they had the same need.
Yes, yep.
But there wasn't any technology out there to support them.
So really, unless the organisation had taken the lead to create their own system or their own way of managing performance and people, there was nothing really out there at that point.
Nothing really out there at that point.
Wow.
So off we went, had the discussion with my wife, who's been exceptionally understanding and supportive.
Yep.
And today, we've grown to 100 customers.
Wow.
10 team members now, and we're just finding our way.
That's so cool. And only 2.5 years in business. I knew that was when we connected, it was very early days in business, but that's just incredible to see and witness that growth. That is for any business that's starting, particularly in technology and things. Often there's that real grind period and you're laying the foundations for 5 to 10 years and people understand that, but you've really just come in, like you said, you probably identified a really core need and out of that birthed something just beautiful that's been really well received.
And something just to add to that as well, I think what's been really valuable to us is, I know we might touch on it later, but we've been really lucky to be part of the Gold Coast and Queensland business community, because we've really been able to, because we've been starting from scratch, we've really been able to look at our clients like you guys and be able to go, okay, these guys are already doing great things in the space in terms of culture and engagement.
Yep.
We could build our platform to support that. Yep. So we've had the opportunity as we've grown to listen to our customers and take the best of what everybody's doing and build it into the platform. So it's been really good.
Yeah, and credit to you for listening and getting in there to understand. So, and that's probably where I guess our journey started, and that was so cool how that came about. And I think again, that's credit to how really successful business operate. It's really on that referral, trust, that 100%. Strong network thing. So I actually got introduced. I got an email dropped to me from a previous employer, someone that I know really well. So Nikki, who runs HR for City Venue Management, huge organization. And she's just like, I really think you'd value connecting with Will. And I didn't really understand from the email what the context was and what was there. But because, again, she's someone that I trust and that I really value her opinion and what she's done with different businesses. So because of that, there's a willingness for me to invest my time to say, let's go catch up. So,
100%.
And that would have been 2 years ago. We went and had a coffee just down the road here, I think.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, near the head office. And mate, I honestly just sitting across you, I was just intrigued to understand more about the business, the why.
Yeah.
And you were resonating with so much. What you touched on before is that, I felt like, not to boast on Usher's behalf, but we're an organization that cares a lot about culture.
100%.
And I feel like we already had a really great baseline for what we were doing through our behaviors and our activities and the care for staff. We have great things that we're doing consistently. But what we didn't have was a platform to be able to put all of that into it, to be able to actually have visibility of our staff, to engage with them, to actually manage things from, that more structured standpoint. Everything was just done. It was a great culture, but it was just very loose and open.
Yeah.
And we really wanted to try and look at how we could evolve that. And as soon as I sat down with you, I remember you had your laptop with you, and it wasn't even like an idea of like a pitch at the time, but because I was so curious, right? I was just asking you a lot of questions. Like, let me just show you.
Yeah.
Pulled it up, and I don't know if you just want to talk through even high level what the platform does and how it operates, but I just remember sitting across from you and just being genuinely blown away with what was there, because it's simple but sophisticated, and it's all the things. It was basically, like you said, it covered all the gaps that we had to fill. Like everything we could do culture up to a point, and beyond that, we just didn't have a great way to manage it. So,
well, that's exactly it. So we say this a lot, that you guys drive your culture through, through your leadership, through your people, through all the activities that you do. The culture comes from within your organization and the leadership, but technology will never build a culture for you. But when you're a business like Usher and you've got staff all over Southeast Queensland on site, it's very difficult to maintain that culture and expand it. So yeah, we're here to support. That's it, basically. And to answer your question on what does the platform do? We are a people success platform. So what we enable businesses to do is understand their employees' sentiment. So we focus on employee engagement. So we have an in-house organizational psychologist who continually builds really powerful employee surveys that can be used throughout the employee life cycle. So from onboarding through to exit, you really get an understanding of the sentiments and the feedback from your employees throughout their employee journey. Super powerful for business leaders.
Very much so.
So then from there, you have the performance management piece. So really, how are you running and managing your performance reviews? How are you reaching your employees on site?
Yes.
What's the cadence of your performance management, and what conversations and discussions are your leaders having with their teams? And then we touch on the employee development piece as well. And the employee development piece is really important because the platform enables you to highlight who within the business is a future leader or talent that you want to develop. So once you have an understanding across your 400 employees of who that talent is, you can then really work with them to develop them. And that really helps with your succession planning. So when you have someone leave within the organization, you've already got 4, 5, 6, 7 people highlighted who you're already developing just to slot them into that role. And that's something really powerful.
Warming up the bench, having that preparation and
the bench,
and I love that too. And we've talked about this before. Like Usher, we're huge focus on organic growth. But before it was just natural, and leaders identify themselves, right? But the more that you can equip them with tools, you can nurture them, identify them. And in saying that, there's some critical role players that won't necessarily beat their chest and say, look at me, which is great. Like, you want those humble people coming through. But when you have a system like this that is focused on identifying those people and nurturing them, then you take them from being someone who's got all the right attributes, all the right, attitudes, skill set, or maybe they need to develop the skill set, but you can start to map out for them what a future within Usher 100%. Or any organization looks like. And, we've got great longevity within the company. We've got people that have been here for a long time, and a lot of the leaders have come from a certain starting point. They weren't hired laterally at the same level. They came in at a certain point within the business, and they've been identified and grown and nurtured, but not to the capacity that will I feel like now with this system in place, we can really accelerate that.
Yeah.
And we can, again, have better succession planning, because sometimes it doesn't always get talked about until it happens. You know, it's all of a sudden someone pulls the pin, or they need to move interstate or whatever. And all of a sudden it's this reactive panic as an organization. You know, what do we do? How do we do this? Do we need to go out and recruit? And, you know, ideally you want to be able to say, like you said, you've got someone who's already had the mindset that they want to grow within the organization. You've created a development journey with them using the platform.
Yeah.
You've outlined the gaps they need to close to get to that level.
100%.
And it's not, no one's getting guaranteed that they're getting a role, but they're saying, if you would like to fulfill a role of this level of responsibility in the future, this is where you need to grow. This is the gaps you need to close.
Yeah.
And someone can be self-motivated to go and do that, and we can nurture them so that when the time does come, like you said, you've got these bench players that are just, they're ready to go, they're equipped, and they already know they've been identified as well.
100%.
I think it's just so cool. And I think we're yet to see the benefits of that, because everything's like, business is that infinite game, right? It's about trying to, it's not just solving today's problems, but what's happening in 10 years' time. We've been on a journey with you guys now for a couple of years, but whilst we've been putting in those foundations, those seeds, the real benefits of that are going to come emerging to light in the next couple of years and beyond, because you've been doing all that work and growing these people. Yeah. And it's going to be really cool.
And I think that the benefit of that spans across your whole business, right? Because if you think about it, we call it key player risk.
Yes.
So, you know, as a business, the risk is if one of your key players walks out the door, for whatever reason, you know, how do we replace them? And if you haven't got people that can replace them internally, you've got to go externally. There's recruitment fees. You don't know if they're a culture fit. There's all sorts of challenges around that. Secondly, if you put somebody on a development plan, if you're developing an individual within the organization, they want to stay with the business. They're engaged. They feel like they're heading somewhere within the organization. So their performance improves. They're just really connected to the business. So the output from the employee is fantastic. They feel connected. So what you actually got is it's a double-edged sword. It's basically you're satisfying the business risk and the business need, and you're also satisfying the employee and because if you think intrinsically what people want from work, they want to feel connected. They want to feel part of the team. They want to feel like they're listened to.
Yep.
They want to feel like they're heading somewhere within the business. They're progressing.
Absolutely.
So if you're doing that for them, everybody wins ultimately.
Yeah, I love that. And was that the original intention when you sought out to build Prosper, or has that come about organically as you started developing it and the different functionality? Because that's something you guys are great at too. You haven't just built something and gone, this is great, and sit back. Like, you're constantly innovating. You're asking for feedback from your customers. You've got people on board. You've got, you know, professionals. And that, I think before I throw back to you, like, we really value that too as a business too, because when we go to our staff, it adds credibility to go like, oh, if we're giving you this survey, it's not just something that we like, yes, there's questions we want to ask, but a lot of it's being driven by psychologists and people that are professionals in that space that actually know the right triggers and questions to ask to identify risks. Yeah. So I just feel like you guys you're interested in continuing to grow and evolving the platform, but I guess back to the questions, like, was that the intention from where it started out, and how has your business grown? Like, what's that journey look like?
Good question. So we started with surveys ultimately. Yep. And what happened was we onboarded some customers who were running some really great surveys, getting some really good analytics, people analytics, and getting some really sort of qualified feedback from the people. From there, what we saw was there was consistency around the feedback across all customers. So what we saw was the areas to improve that employees were highlighting, and I'm not talking about Usher here, I'm talking about across the board, was typically around development opportunities, you know, feedback from the managers, you know, how are they performing? What can they improve? There was really lacking in that space.
And very common trends
Very
across
common
every
trends
business, every industry. It was
across
all
the same.
Yep.
And another thing that we were getting feedback from our customers on was, which is really interesting, is when you typically promote typically promote somebody based on their performance in a particular role.
Sure.
So you would, if someone's doing a really good job in an individual contributor role, they've been with you for 2 years, you promote them.
Yes, yep.
And that's typically into a management position.
Mm-hmm.
And then you move this person into a management position and they've got no management experience. So all of a sudden, they've gone from being really comfortable, being successful in their role, to managing a team. And that brings challenges within itself,
It's
right?
not always necessarily transferable being an individual performer versus a team leader.
Correct. And it's very difficult to give every employee management training. Like, it's very challenging for any business. So what's happened based on that feedback is we've really developed the platform over time to solve those problems for the customer, the business.
Yes, yep.
Moving forward, which is really exciting for us, is which is in development now, it will be live in August, is one of the big pieces of feedback from you guys as well, actually, was how do we communicate with our teams? It's okay doing performance reviews, it's okay doing surveys, but how do we effectively coordinate across our business with our teams and communicate with them? So we're releasing an app, which will be a communications tool.
Yes, I have whispers of this.
It's really going to integrate with all that. So they'll have an app, Prosper. It'll have all their performance management, all of their engagements, everything in one place. But it's also going to give you as the business a message from the CEO. You know, we've won this recent project.
Yes. Yep.
You know, whatever it may be that you want to communicate with your teams. And that really is going to form part, almost put the cherry on the top of the employee experience.
Love that.
So that's going to be really powerful for us. We're really excited about it.
Because it's all about engagement, right? It's
100%.
And this is probably a common challenge for so many different platforms, and we sometimes fall into this trap as an organization too, is that we have great platforms that we utilize for various reasons, but they are in isolation. Sometimes they're disjointed, they don't talk to each other. And if there's not a high level of engagement, then no matter how good the platform is, the level of engagement's dropped off, and people are like, well, they don't, if it doesn't tie into their regular use, then it can fall by the wayside in terms of, you know, so people putting their attention and focus to it. I think it's getting harder and harder in today's world, which is an attention economy.
Yeah.
Everything's like, you know, everything's at people, and basically people are trying to figure out where to focus their attention and put out distractions. So
100%.
to be able to bring something like that in where it's like, well, now I can go to this central place and it's got, you know, my development journey as an employee, which is important to me.
Yeah.
I've got communication from my management or the business or whatever else. Like, and the surveys, like there's every level of employee engagement. It's just
correct.
Yeah, it's just
and that's going to be
powerful.
the key play for us, because hopefully it's going to be where when a new employee starts with the business, it's okay, you need to download the Prosper app.
Yes.
And the Prosper app's going to be where you get your announcements. It's going to be, you know, where you get everything ultimately in terms of your employee journey.
Yes.
You know, there's still going to be, you know, other tools that they need to access outside of that. Yeah. But ultimately what it will do is that it's going to be the engagement, the employee experience portal for them.
Yes.
And I think a key part of what we're going to do as part of that rollout, which is going to be really exciting, is we're going to enable you to put your platforms within ProsperX. So it won't be at this stage an integrated, fully integrated, but what it will be is the employee can look at the app and go, okay, I can see here that I have a link to my payroll platform. I have a link to our cost-based platform, you know, our quoting platform, whatever it may be. So they can actually just access everything through that one place.
Great.
It's almost like it comes back to the same issue as I said before. If you look at a big business, what they typically have is an intranet, right? Which is a big, heavy lifting piece of technology.
Absolutely.
That not many medium businesses have in place. So we're ultimately going to act as the intranet.
Cool.
So it's going to be entirely connected.
Wow. And so what's driving that innovation for you? Like what keeps you hungry to keep growing the platform? You've already got 100 plus customers. You're already having great success as an early business. Like what's driving you to keep innovating like this?
That's a really good question. I think for us, it's evolving so quickly, the market. And like you said before, like the attention, the way Gen Z are coming through, their expectations of technology are very different to what maybe your current workforce. You might have had people who are here for 20 years. Their expectation is very different to what Gen Z, we've got AI coming, there's lots of noise about AI in the market.
Isn't there? Yeah.
How's that gonna impact us at work? So for us, as we continue to grow, we want to stay at the forefront of that technology.
Yes. Yep.
We want to keep supporting our clients to give them amazing employee experiences, and from a selfish reason as well. I think by releasing more technology that becomes more entwined in the way you work, it makes us more sticky for the client, more important
Absolutely
for the client,
Yep.
So we've got a big journey ahead of us, and we are looking at AI as well, but it's a minefield,
Oh, it's a scary beast in itself. We've opened that door a few times and then put the lid back down and looked again, but we need to, it's one of those things you can't ignore. It's coming quickly, and it's going to be slowly, then bang. And I think
100%.
we've got to be prepared as a business to know, how can you utilize it as a positive tool for your staff and your people, not to replace them, but to make them
100%.
more effective at what they're already doing. And that's every conversation we've had around it is, what can we do to automate processes that are actually a low value task for our
100%.
staff members, but they have to be done. You can't get around them. They're compliance. There might be repetitive tasks. How can we utilize some sort of technology to go and do that? And I don't know how that's going to feed into what you're doing, but I'm sure there's going to be a lot of that. And I'd love for you to talk us through a bit more about the reporting side of things from the surveys internally. And this has been something that's been phenomenal for Usher. And I've got to say, there's been some incredible insights that maybe we didn't actually understand ourselves. And I think that's the powerful thing about surveys, right? Is it's teaching you more about your people and the business that you didn't know previously. And you've really got to humble yourself sometimes, because you've got an idea of what you think is happening in the organization or how people are feeling.
Yep.
And sometimes you're confronted with very different results. But the power, I think, in the reporting is that it's so specific. So I wonder, maybe with Prosperex, if you can talk to us about what you think is different there, or how those layers of reporting work.
Yeah. No, look, I think it's a good question. And I think the first thing to mention is, I think leaders do struggle sometimes because they haven't got the data they need to make informed decisions with a high level of accuracy.
Yes, yep.
So although surveys have been around for a long time, I think they're still exceptionally important for businesses to understand exactly what's going on across the business, especially when you've got more and more employees, or a high number of employees. But in terms of our survey platform, we have over 30 pre-made people surveys now, built by our in-house organizational psychologist.
Love that.
So we're constantly keeping up to date with industry trends. Burnout came on the scene last year.
Yes.
We look at burnout quite heavily, and different things, equity, diversity, and inclusion, onboarding surveys, exit surveys, and everything in between. So
yes, yep.
You can use those through the platform at your frequency. You can customize our templates, or you can build your own surveys too. So you're in control of that. Once you start sending the surveys out to your team, super intuitive, straight to the employee's device, no matter where they are.
Yep.
No need to log in.
Yep.
Just click on the link, complete the survey, and the data starts feeding into the platform.
And I've got to say with that too, really great, particularly for us, an organization that's very trade heavy. So out of our 300 plus employees, majority of those are on-site tradespeople, right? And to think of having to do a survey where you've got to log in, have passwords in and out, so many barriers of entry.
Yeah.
Sometimes that reduces the count. Previously, we've struggled to get survey engagement because it has been challenging,
100%.
For people that are on the go and maybe don't utilize computers in their everyday life. So I love that. That's been a great thing partnering with you guys, is that survey pops up, it's on their mobile, they can just straight away start answering the questions.
Yeah.
And it gives some really great insight. So maybe just dive a bit deeper into what comes out of that.
Yeah. So once the data starts flowing into the platform, we really start to break the data out in a meaningful way for you. So if you look at an engagement survey as an example, there's multiple pillars that we focus on: leadership, communication, various different reporting levers. Once the data flows into the platform, you can then really break that data down how you want to see it and turn it into insights. So, for example, we can break the data down by team or location or job role or gender or age group. Whatever it is you want to focus on, we can really break that data down as visuals through a heat map, so you can really see that data. Second thing is you can be super targeted. So you can start to say, hang on a second, we've got some challenges here within our business based on the feedback, through communication from leadership in location A or warehouse B.
Yes.
Yep. Or whatever it may be that however your business is structured. So then as people leaders, you can take action, meaningful action.
That's the key.
Meaningful action to make those changes. Because if you look at what you can actually see, the data itself from the surveys is great. But then we start to really give the employee the opportunity to add verbatim. So they might give you a low score in an area, but they can also have the opportunity to add comments.
Yes.
Which you can then filter. So you can report on what were the negative comments, what were the positive comments. So you can really get the full picture of what it is you're trying to do. And then you can take action. So we have an example of one of our clients who they're a hospitality group, and they had a challenge with one of their venues, just had high staff turnover versus the other ones. It had less profitability. The average spend per customer was less than the other venues.
So all the metrics were down on
the metrics were down, and they were sending an area manager out to check in, and they couldn't put the finger on it. And they actually used the engagement survey to see, hang on a second, we can see here that there are some challenges between the communication from leadership. People are dissatisfied in their role.
Yes.
So the business leaders of that hospitality group were then able to go to that venue and put steps in place to resolve the issues and increase the revenue.
That is so powerful. That's the whole goal, right? Is no one goes into business trying to set their employees up for failure, to have bad communication. Like no one's wanting to do that. But every business is operating with the best intentions, doing what they think they know how. But they're just often not equipped with the right data and information to make educated changes. And that's what I love about your platform is that it enables business owners or business leaders to be actually able to have actionable content or reports and data to work with. So
yeah, I agree.
Huge success there.
And I think you don't need to change the world, right? So what we typically see across our clients is, they might get 6 pieces of feedback from their employee base, and they might, look at them and go, do you know what? These 3 of these are real opportunities to change. But they use the data and insights from the engagement survey to build the people strategy for the next 12 months. So they'll say, we agree that, there aren't enough developmental opportunities for our employees.
Yes.
Let's make it our plan over the next 12 months to improve that. Let's understand what that looks like.
Yes.
And let's implement a development plan. And what you typically find is if the business leaders are implementing 2 or 3 strategies over the year from the data, the next time the engagement survey comes out, you often see that their issues are resolved. People are being developed.
Isn't that true? Because if there isn't meaningful change within the organization, what's the motivation from the staff to continue 100%. To invest their time to actually fill out a survey? It's like, well, I've just spent 5, 10, 15 minutes of my time putting thought into these answers and how it's there, but I haven't noticed any change.
Nothing's happened.
And that's a very typical thing for organizations. Again, well-intentioned. No one's trying to just ignore their staff and not do that. But until you have meaningful cause to actually go and act on things, where do you go as a business? How do you tackle those challenges? And really loved what your platform has brought to us in doing that. And I think we still have a big way to grow in being effective in utilizing that as a tool. One thing I think would be great if you can touch on too, and maybe for the benefit of any of our staff that tune into this, but other businesses too, is that you do get to see level of responses very specifically, like you said, between teams, genders, whatever else. There has been commentary from team within the business that have said, oh, you can basically pinpoint who I am, and the survey doesn't become anonymous anymore, and therefore maybe the truth doesn't come out. If people really have something on their heart they want to say, but they're concerned about the outcome of doing that, what can you talk about in terms of anonymity and keeping people's privacy, but getting out the meaningful data, but without putting a target on someone's back?
So the first thing you mentioned is true. Communication from leadership that this is anonymous is really important.
Yep.
And that helps, but it doesn't go the whole way. The second thing to note from a platform perspective, anonymity is at the core of everything we do. So if you look at how the data is broken down, we actually mask the data from visibility of the leadership if there's less than 5 people within a particular demographic. So a demographic, for example, could be team, or it could be location, it could be job role, whatever it may be. So I'll give you an example. If you've got 5 people in finance,
yes,
and only 3 people have responded to that survey,
yes,
you won't be able to see the granular data based on that survey.
Yes, yep.
And that roll. So what we do is then you as a business can still see the data, but we roll it up a level. So, for example, you've got whole of company, leadership, team manager, team,
roles,
employee roles, employee. So what we actually do is we mask the data if there hasn't been enough respondees, and we roll it up so you into a group of people that has enough respondees.
Yes. Yep.
So it's completely anonymous. It's impossible to.
It's great to understand. And it's funny you say that, because there's been some surveys we've come back, and I might share a quick story too, in that, there was one particular survey pretty close after partnering with you guys that we sent out, and again, asks great questions. So we got feedback from the business that maybe we hadn't gotten previously. And when we got that feedback, there was actually a bit of a shock within the executive team, and, the owner, like Theo is the owner of the business and CEO, like, we genuinely thought that culture was at a certain point and people felt a certain way, and we thought things were in a really positive space at that point in time. And the feedback came back was a real wake up call to go, hang on, there actually are issues in your business right now. And the initial knee jerk reaction is, where does it come from? Is there a rogue person that's just a cancer within the business? Let me look into the data to try and figure out where it's come from. And you're right. The harder we looked, the more it just blocks out levels. So there was no way to figure out exactly where it came from. But what it did give us was meaningful data to put our egos aside and say, hey, hang on, we're getting this feedback for a reason. Culture is not a flat line. You can't just set the culture today and it's good forever. It's a living organism that just changes and flows month to month, year to year, environment, new people. Culture is something that is fast moving. So you can never get comfortable going, oh, we've ticked the box up, we've got culture sorted. And that's why I love the platform, is that it keeps a finger on the pulse, and you can set those reports for whatever frequency you want. And that's the power of how you guys have done this. So you obviously give some great recommendations, but you give us, I guess, authority as a business to be able to go, what do we think is the right cadence? You can create your own milestones. So you get to see reports in isolation to when they're done. Then you also can get combined views of time periods, and it can gel reports together, and you can start to see trends.
Correct.
But we've also been able to plot milestones as a business when we've really tried to make a concerted effort to improve something, and we can plot that milestone, and then we can measure back from that date and see, have we actually made meaningful change?
Correct.
So powerful. Talk us through how did that come about?
So ultimately it's important, because you used the right words before. It's a moment. A survey is really a moment in time, right?
Yeah. So
you might do a survey in January, and that survey yields results or data and insights that you of that situation at that time. On top of that, moving forward, then you want to implement your strategies to try and improve or maintain. Because you also get lots of positive feedback, right?
Yeah.
You get lots of positive feedback in the surveys of what's going really well. And that's something to really shout about for your internal marketing.
Yes.
We've listened to you, and these 3 things are going great. We're going to maintain them. And these are the 3 areas that we're going to improve. So then we gave you the ability to do a couple of things for the customer. One is track engagement over time. So when you choose to do another survey, which might be a mid-year engagement survey as a follow-up, you can see over time for each pillar of the reporting, you can see whether that's improved, maintained, or declined, and the exact area that's happened. And the other thing is, you can start to, as you mentioned, plot milestones in. So there might be certain things that happen within your business that have an impact on engagement, whether that's positive or negative.
Absolutely.
So it could be you've bought another company. It could be you've lost a big customer. It could be COVID was a big example, right?
Absolutely.
So you can
work from home,
work
work in
from
the
home,
office,
whatever it may be. There's always stuff happening that will have an impact on your employees. And by plotting it, you can actually start to track X happened on this date. Since then, we've lost some engagement with our people. They're feeling a bit nervous. They feel that, are their roles going to be made redundant?
Yep.
And you can start to take action to follow up on what's actually happened at that point.
So powerful. And I think, like you said, it doesn't become a cop out to go, oh, the culture's gone bad because this happened, but it's more a sense of awareness that has an impact. And now that we've seen the ripple effect of that, and it has had either a positive or a negative effect, it's like, well, what do we want to do moving forward? Because we're going to have things like this come up in the future. How can we evolve as a business to either maximize more positive output or to minimize the negative, like events are going to happen, good or bad. And it's more about what do we learn from those events? And I think the platform is so powerful for that, because you're not just like your business continues to move through the motions day to day, week to week, but you get these beautiful little snapshots that correlate with what's happening at that time. And you can then start to really understand the impact of events as they occur, positive or negative. So really love the kudos feature. So maybe just talk to us the mindset behind that, where you see it's helped businesses, any, success stories out of that.
Yeah. So I think with the recognition, or kudos as we call it now, like the cool kids, is ultimately what so I think, just to take a step back on this, because I should have mentioned this probably earlier, most of our clients, 90% of our clients, are what we call frontline workers.
Okay.
So you have a head office and you have people on site. So it could be construction, could be retail, hospitality, all have similarities, that you have a head office and then people out in the field. Now, what you actually see, and it's actually going to be improved significantly with the release of the app. It's going to be a huge improvement to that technology. But basically what you actually start to see is how do we recognize our people for high performance at scale. So you've got 400 employees all onto your sites. And also a key part of that is we see our clients have company values, and they can really often become a marketing tool more than an actual real thing. And what you actually see is that you may have company values, but you have no visibility of who's living by them. Are people living by them? What does that mean? If they're not, which ones are they living by? So we talk a lot about value-driven recognition.
I love that. Yep.
So the platform actually now allows you, peer-to-peer or top-down, to send recognition to employees or teammates based on living by company values.
So cool.
So they can...
Everyone, I think we all do work for some level of having purpose in what we're doing. And we would hope that people that come to work each day are proud of what they do, love what they do.
Yeah.
But to actually get recognition from that, and the thing I love, what you mentioned before too, is that the ability to do it peer to peer.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of studies to show that peer-driven recognition is sometimes more valuable than actually top-down recognition, because that top-down, yes, you do want to, I guess, impress the top, and you want to work for the support, all those things. But that at some level, the top, they don't have an obligation, but it's more standard for them to recognize their staff for what they're doing, because that's the business doesn't operate without what the staff are doing. So the top's role is to make sure that they're edifying, they're growing, they're nurturing their staff. Kudos to you and the team for coming across that. It's something, again, we need to be. We need to be driving that more with our team and stuff. But I think that the bringing in of an app and things like that, that relates to today's world. That's all very like, that dopamine hit of notification or whatever else. So
it is.
I think, we're making a big effort to celebrate those now. So whenever we do our monthly barbecues, one of the things we bring up is the current kudos leaderboard.
Yeah.
And then also like, anyone who's just got a recent recognition or whatever. And it's just a cool way to, obviously they get the instant gratification, but we're talking about it again, reinforcing it later in front of a group. Yeah, visible. So when our employees log into Prosper, it looks like an Usher platform. You've got our logo, our colors, whatever else. Obviously, they can see it's still Prosper, but they're logging into like the Usher engagement area.
Yeah.
Is that something you do for all your customers?
Yeah, that's
It is?
something we do for
Yep.
all. I think
Yep.
it's making it part of the experience of the employee, right?
Yep.
So your branding and Usher as a name is so important to who
Yep.
you are.
Yes. Yep.
You know, so when we want to make it ingrain it as much as possible as part of your operations.
Yes. Yep.
And that will really come even further when the app comes into play.
Yes.
Because there's going to be some really nice customization around that and making it, you know, Usher HQ or you know, whatever it is you wanted to
Very cool.
call that environment.
Yep.
You'll have some customization there. So that's really important for us.
What's next for Will? And you know, you've got maybe, you know, talk about business. Like you've had this great idea. It's been 2.5 years. How have you managed family, your own health, energy? Like it's a lot starting up a business. I mean, I haven't done it, but I've witnessed Theo and other people, many business owners. Like it's obviously you're very invested in what you're doing, but how does life, like what does that look like for you and what's next?
Yeah, so for us, we're still sort of in the early growth phase for us. So we're you know, over the next sort of 12 months, we really want to focus on scaling, as it's still continuing to scale, which is quite high pressure. Our daughter is 8 now, Holly. So she's she's sort of growing up. So we're really just sort of over the next 12 months focusing on family, family and work. And then, we want to, once we've released the app, we really want to look at scaling the team. So cool. Move from being a small team to a larger organization.
Wow.
So we'll see, but we've got some.
Hey, at least you've got the right tool to manage your staff as you scale and grow.
At least
you're gonna be able to keep your finger on the pulse.
We're good at engagement and performance management and things. So
do you use Prosper for you've got 10 staff at the moment?
To.
Yeah, I was going to say, so you're actually a living example of utilizing that system.
And that's really useful as well, because it helps us learn from our people.
Yep. You know, if there's anyone who's watching or listening onto this, where can they go to learn more about Prosper and more about how, you know, see if it's applicable for their business?
Yep. So they can visit us on our website.
Yep.
www.prosperx.com.au.
Yep.
Or LinkedIn.
You haven't dropped the X off there yet?
No, there's some ownership issues around the website there.
Yep.
But we also LinkedIn.
Yep.
And look, the way it typically works is we just love to show you the platform and talk to you. Yep. You know, friendly.
Open, yeah. Well, honestly, you've got a beautiful family. The business is amazing. Love what you guys stand for and what you're doing. We want to thank you, I guess, from Usher for what you've helped us do. And we're excited for the journey moving forward. But thanks for joining us today. And I really hope that your message is heard from a lot of different businesses, because I know you're going to have a big impact.
Thanks, Michael. Appreciate it.
All good, mate.
Cheers, mate. Thanks a lot.
Hey.